metric system. You've heard of 2 liters of pop. You've heard of kilograms of weight. You've heard of centimeters. These are metric prefixes here, and we have our units of measure. Meter for distance, liter for volume, and gram for weight. Your physics teacher will tell you that there is a difference between gram for weight and gram for mass. It's actually gram for mass, and there is no gram for weight. But that's another topic. What we are talking about here is just what are these prefixes and how do we use them to translate, to convert from one unit of measure to a different unit of measure. So the kilo, when you have a kilogram of something, it's heavier than if you have just a gram of something. And if you take a chemistry class, you're going to be dealing with milligrams. And those are very small measurements. A centimeter, 1 inch, is about 2.5 centimeters. Most people, if they measure the distance from their knuckle to the knuckle on their finger, that is 1 inch. Very close to it at least. So that is 2.5 centimeters. A millimeter, on the other hand, is about as thick as my fingernail, my thumbnail is thick. Not long, thick. A kilometer is equivalent to miles. If you ever take a trip to Canada or somewhere overseas, you'll see the units measured in kilometers instead of miles. Hecto, deca, and deci. They're not used very often. We have them because they are useful for some things, but they're not used very often. When you are going from a kilo something to a centi something, or from a milli something to whatever that something is, all it is moving your decimal point. There's no multiplication like we did with the US conversions. So I am going to leave this up here, and I'm going to pull up some problems for you. If we have 46 meters, and we want to know how many centimeters that is, I'm going to take my 46 and I'm going to find my units place. This is my units because there's only one letter there. There's not a second letter to tell me that it's kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, or milli. So I'm going to put the 6 in the units column. The 4 goes in front of the 6, so the 4 goes in the next column over. Now I have to imagine that there's a decimal point at the end of the 6. And I want to put that decimal point at the end of the C column. So I'm taking my decimal from there, and I'm moving it to here. I need to fill in zeros to hold that decimal point in place. I now have my answer. 46 meters is 4,000 600 centimeters. What if I want to go from millimeters to centimeters? "14 millimeters is how many centimeters?" So I have the meter telling me that it's length. I have the other m here telling me that it's the milli. So I want my 4, the last number before my decimal point, the 4, to go in the milli column. The 1 is in front of the 4, so the 1 goes in front of that. I want my new decimal point to be in the centi column, so it's going to go at the end of centi. I now know that 14 millimeters is 1.4 centimeters. That is how easy it is to convert from one unit of length to another unit of length in the metric system. This is why we've been saying over the centuries that we need to move in the U.S. from our feet and inches into the metric system. Let's do one more of these. If we have 400 meters and we want to find out how many kilometers, my decimal point is at the end of the 0 here. Because it's not written, it's assumed to be at the end of the number. So that 0 goes in my units column. There's no prefix there, so it's just the units. Fill in my other numbers in front of that. I want my new decimal point to be in the kilo column, at the end of the kilo column. So there's my K. My new decimal point is going to be there. And there is my number, 0.400 kilometers. With practice, you'll get this.